This is the Military Bottom Line Podcast, episode 80.
I personally think there has not been a better program for transitioning soldiers out when it comes to gaining, meaningful employment.
Welcome to the Military Bottom Line Podcast, where we learn from veterans and those currently serving how to make the most out of a military contract. We're here to motivate, inspire, and help you leverage your service to positively impact you professionally, personally, and financially during your military career and beyond. What's going on, everybody? I've been in touch with Sergeant Major Scott Wilder for a couple months now. He's retired and he's now part of the Army Emergency Relief Society and has some fantastic information for soldiers that are nearing their transition and preparing to take advantage of the Career Skills Program. So if you want to learn about how to find some grant money, which is essentially free, non-taxable money in order to contribute to the costs associated with CSP, which there can be some, even though the Army's still paying you to take advantage of the CSP program. Make sure you stick around for this whole podcast to hear Scott's information about how to apply for these grants, ranging from anywhere from $500 to $1,500. So this is an incredible opportunity and really only going to further assist you in your transition to make sure it's as smooth as possible and you guys are prepared for not only CSP, but also civilian life outside. So stick around for this episode and enjoy this information from Scott. Good evening. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a long time coming. We've been interacting for, I feel like it's probably been a couple months now. And so I'm grateful that we've finally been able to connect and share the information that you're bringing us today in relation to the CSP program for transitioning soldiers. And you've got, some kind of gold nuggets that I had no idea about. And I'm sure a lot of soldiers are unaware too. And so, everybody loves hearing about how to get some free money, especially during that transition time. And so I think, what you're coming here today is important. And I think a lot of people are going to appreciate it. So if you've got a couple minutes, kind of just share a little bit about yourself, a little background with the military and what you do now.
Okay. So I joined the Army in 1989, spent a little over 30 years in the Army, had an infantry background for the first, we'll say, 24 of them. And then I was selected to work for the SMA, Sergeant Major of the Army, on Capitol Hill for a couple of years. And I worked for a senator. And that's where my eyes really started to open about transition. And then my last assignment in the Army for the last 3 years I was the Army Soldier for Life Sergeant Major. So that really opened my eyes. You don't think a lot about transition as you're just trying to stay caught up with things, and you're working so many different things throughout your time in the Army that you don't think a lot about transition necessarily. So, but I spent a little over 30 years in the Army. Retired in 2019. About a month later, I started working for Army Emergency Relief as basically I help get people loans and grants, and been there, up until now. So it's been about 2.5 years with them.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, congratulations on the recent retirement and thank you for your long, dedicated career. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, you bring up a really good point that, when you're in service, you're in your contract, you're not really giving much consideration to your transition. And a lot of people kind of get blindsided by like, holy smokes, 4 years or however many years they end up serving is up and they got to scramble to figure out what the next step is.
Yeah.
So, I didn't even take advantage of CSP. I wasn't fully aware of it when I left active duty. And the more I hear about it now, the more I'm like, man, that is, I'm bummed I missed that opportunity and I want everybody to know about it. And I want to kind of give you the floor to talk about what AER does in relation to CSP and how you guys help with transitioning soldiers.
Okay. Like I said, I didn't put a ton of thought into transition when I was, up through being a command sergeant major. And then when I worked on the Hill, I saw a lot of the struggles that our veterans were going through. And when I went to Soldier for Life, I got to travel to all kinds of posts all over the place and go to all these types of transition summits and listen to soldiers' real concerns. And I'll be honest, it all boiled down to money, really, because it's scary getting out from that fixed income to now you really got to earn money on your own. If it's yourself, that's one thing. But when you got to take care of a family, now it really it's a lot of stress, and it's probably the biggest stressor I think that there is. So it really kind of opened my eyes to transition. And I'm the guy that did not want to get out of the Army. So like 3 months from getting out, I'm like, I better get on this transition stuff so I can prepare. But it definitely made me aware that every leader I talked to, I kind of said, clearly transition can't be your number one priority in the first couple of years of soldiers there, but definitely you've got to give them a good solid 2 years. But while they're in, mentor them to try to help them prepare for them to get out, move on to another life or to stay in, whatever. The most schooling you can get them, the better that they're prepared, the better they're going to be when they get out. So I really try to put on these younger leaders, think about transition. It's going to happen. Soldiers are going to leave. That's just the nature of the Army and how it works. So the around 2015 or so, basically the Army looked at our soldiers are getting out. We tell them, we ask those standard questions. Are you going to go to college? Are you going to get a job? What are you going to do? What are your plans? And it's not that people don't care, but for a guy like me, 25 years in the Army, I'm asking them stuff about I can't really even give them real good advice about I hadn't been outside, I was an 80s guy basically. So, Army leadership basically really looked at, said, what can we do to help them when they, before they get out, not just kind of offer some lip service and say, hey, good luck. We got you. There's the GI Bill, take advantage of that. What can we really do to set them up? So what was created in 2015 was a program called the Career Skills Program. And what's great about the Career Skills Program, it's comprised of, and this is a fluctuating number, probably 200 or so companies across every post, or across, I'll say most posts, and some overseas, and then in some remote locations away from posts. They're organizations that want to hire soldiers because they know by hiring a soldier that they are going to get someone that has time standards, maintenance standards, quality standards, the attention to detail. There's just many qualities that comes along with the soldier that they themselves, the soldier, don't even realize a lot of times. So making them a great employee right off the bat, but it goes twofold. It helps them out also. So the way that the program works is within a soldier's last 6 months of being in the Army, or last 180 days of being in the Army, he needs to be looking before this, but he selects a career skills program to go to. He applies, and if he gets in, what he does, he'll go to anywhere, we'll say between 3 to 4 months of training. And the great thing about this program is that the company that trained them offers them employment. So it's a really smart program because the company is training them on exactly what they want them to do. So it's not this process of some kid goes to college, he comes in and you got to train him anyhow. They're getting a guy that's coming fresh out of the Army, train him to do what you want to do. And the good thing is most of these are very meaningful jobs. It's not just some job trying to do your best to get minimum wage. It's a good job that has some real certificates. Say they can get some certificates of training that they can take anywhere. So
and the benefit to the employer is just enormous. I mean, like the Army is continuing to pay the soldier for those months of on the job training or education that they're getting from that employer. So literally, I mean, they're training up an employee for free, whereas they would hire a new grad from college and be paying that college graduate to get trained. And so, I mean, it's just like, it's a win-win for really everybody involved.
It is. I personally think there has not been a better program for transitioning soldiers out when it comes to gaining, meaningful employment. And the great, when you look at, if you want to look at numbers for success, because really I'm a numbers person, that in the end numbers mean everything. Definitely. It's over a 93% rate of soldiers getting a job. And the 7% is a little deceiving because it's not soldiers failing. It's soldiers saying, you know what, I'm going to reenlist. Actually, I don't think I like this work, or I don't like this location, or, so the 7% is a deceiving number. Probably the approval rate is much higher than that, but, soldiers change their mind. People change their mind.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I was going to ask that if you had a success rate. 93% it's a good success rate for pretty much anything. But yeah, I also, you brought up an interesting point. I didn't think about the possibility or the permissibility of somebody going through CSP and then deciding to reenlist. I thought by that point the decision's kind of made, and your contracts, a reenlistment takes some time.
Yeah, it is not. Well, now, it's pretty quick. I'm not going to lie. I'm not up on the current timeline. While I was in, it fluctuated from, you got to reenlist 3 months out. It at one point got all the way down to basically the last day in the Army you could reenlist when it was heavy in deployments.
Wow.
I'm not sure what the number is now.
Yeah.
But soldiers change their mind, and some have reenlisted and not gone with the program. And and the idea behind the program, what is really smart also is, they don't want a soldier at a year and a half out to do it, because they want the benefit of training. It's like quick flash to bang. They train them, they get out, they're working for them. So it's really a great idea. It's really a great program.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I don't want to corner you with any difficult questions, because I know that you're not here for CSP specific information, but more AER information as it relates to CSP. But as far as, for soldiers understanding the number of options there are for them to go through training programs, it's not like there's just like 12 companies around the country that they can go internship with. We're talking, it's in the hundreds at this point, thousands maybe, or what are we looking at?
So right now I want to say it's right around 200 programs, and it's a fluctuating number, and it fluctuates based on, one of the things it's based on is, for example, there was a diesel mechanic course at one of the posts. I think it was Fort Knox, and I'm pretty sure that's the one. But anyhow, they only had got one soldier applied and got in for the whole year. So they look at what's the cost of benefit. We got one soldier that got trained here. Is there a spot we can move this training somewhere else, or is it even worth having, really?
Gotcha.
But there's from auto body. There's computer type programs. There is mechanic programs. There is, like the sprinklers that are right above your head in all these office buildings. There's a program for that. That company's, which is great. That company's based out of Maryland. I think the training takes place. It's either Fort Sill or Fort Leonard Wood. At least it did. That was a few years ago. But then they have offices in every state, I believe, across the entire country. So it offers a lot of flexibility. I think it's one of the beer companies. It might have been like Anheuser-Busch or something. They had a really smart idea, because where the challenge lies with a lot of these career skills programs is what is the start date of the program compared to the soldier's last 6 months of service? Can he get it in?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure it was Anheuser-Busch had a rolling start date. So each month, basically, there would be different levels inside each course, and soldiers could jump into it each month. So it was a real smart idea. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. And, I don't want anybody painting a picture either of like, oh, this is only for, because you mentioned like sprinkler systems and things like that. This isn't only for the trades, and if somebody's interested in tech or real estate or whatever, there are numerous different industries that you can successfully transition into with this type of program. And I just, one of my previous guests, did I guess for the Marine Corps, it's Skill Bridge rather than CSP. But he did an internship with what's called ADU Geeks in Southern California, and so it's a real estate development company essentially. So yeah, I don't want anybody thinking that like, oh, this isn't for me because I don't want to go into a trade. There's a wide spectrum of companies and skills that you can go out and learn. So.
Well, the great thing about the career skills program, there are also opportunities if you find some type of employment that you really are interested in, you can work it to where that can be the company. Like I had when I was a Soldier for Life Star Major, one of my NCOs who did a lot of traveling, he found out that a company was hiring, a real good company, and he went and spoke with them, and they kind of worked out a deal, and we got that turned into a career skills program for him. And bottom line, he went to that for. Now I didn't like it because I was short an NCO like by 4 months. So but no, I was super happy for him that he found something. And that guy, we're talking, that's over 3 years. He's still there, and he's doing very well there. And
awesome.
so there's a lot of flexibility with this program, and everybody really tries to accommodate it. Now, when it started, it was becoming so successful right away that I can tell you senior leaders in the Army were a little bit worried because they're like, so many soldiers are going to do this. And, as me in the Soldier for Life program, I was trying to explain to them, listen, there aren't too many soldiers who are seeing this opportunity and saying, I'm going to get out. It's more like they're going to get out and they're seeing the opportunity. So it's not really drawing them out of the Army.
Yeah.
And when we look at the numbers overall, I think the last couple of years had around 8,000 soldiers in it. So you compare 8,000 soldiers to the size of the Army. Overall, it's not really that big.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know how it works for somebody, or where the opportunity lies if somebody says, okay, I'm getting out of the Army and I want to return to my home of record? Is there opportunity to basically, find a CSP program or employer near their home of record where they can kind of start that transition and start that move and get lined up with an employer before actually getting out back where they want to live?
I'm not going to say that there is or there's not. I mean, okay. I think it kind of goes for, like, a great example, someone from Hawaii. They have the Concrete Preservation Institute out in Hawaii. So those soldiers who live in Hawaii want to go home. We allow these guys to fly over. Now, the dime is on them, so they have to spend the money to get themselves and for lodging. And the great thing, a lot of these programs have lodging on posts. They got it approved to where soldiers can stay in empty barracks. To go to training. So, I say it just all depends on what they have there for employment. It has to be something very legitimate, signed off, approved by the I won't say the program manager, but by the regional coordinators. There's 6 regional coordinators for the career skills program, and they all are part of the approval process. So if they kind of see something like this doesn't quite line up, then they might not go with it. But if it's all legitimate,
gotcha.
I'm not saying yes or no, but I think there's always the opportunity. And with anything, what I always say? Ask. Yeah. It doesn't hurt. Always ask. Because you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it if you don't ask. But if you go, but if you go in with a good plan and say, hey, look, this is a very legitimate business. Yeah. I have the opportunity to go here and work and prosper. Yeah. There's always that possibility.
Yeah. 100%. Awesome. All right. So let's kind of dig into AER and the grants that are available. And because, I was looking through the informational sheet that you provided prior to this, and, it looks like there's multiple caps for potential grants. So you can receive anywhere from $500 to $1,500 in order to assist with some of the excess financial needs that are associated with these programs. And so if you take a minute, just kind of break that down, and, why or when would somebody be reaching out to AER to apply for some of these grants?
Okay. So, just as a plug for AER overall, Army Emergency Relief, it's a great organization. And there's people that have negative views of us and positive views of us. Sure. Bottom line, we're here to help someone that's in financial distress. And I'll tell you, we work very closely with the leadership of the Army. And if they say that there's a need, we look wholeheartedly into that to see, what we can do to help. So the way that the career skills program assisting for that came about was, we know that soldiers are already in financial need a lot of times, especially these lower ranking guys. And now you're asking them to spend possibly a good amount of money to attend this career skills program training, which might be in an entirely different state. So I can tell you, when when the program first began, it was very limiting. So when I was retiring, I can have 20 days of permissive TDY tacked onto whatever leave I have. Soldiers, when they're just getting out, they have 10 days of permissive TDY, which everything is on them as far as expenses go in their preparation to get out. So we in AER, or a Soldier for Life, looked at it and said, that's just really not enough time. So, it was already in the process when I became the Sergeant Major over a Soldier for Life, but they were looking to expand that time. And through overtime, it got expanded to 120 days. and it got expanded from there to 180 days. Now, the benefit of that, which people may not know, is so initially, if a soldier was on Fort Bragg, he could pretty much go to a course on Fort Bragg because he's right there. Mm-hmm. What this did, this really opened the door. So a soldier who's in Hawaii can go up to Maine or to Fort Bragg to do his training, or a soldier at Fort Campbell can go to JBLM, up there in Washington to do their training. So that 180 days just really opened the door.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So with that travel, of course, there's going to be associated costs. It's going to be airfare. It's going to be fuel for your vehicle. It's going to be tools, possibly uniforms, food, possible lodging. So there's just a lot of associated costs that go with this training. And we looked at it and said, what a shame it would be if a soldier could not participate in something that will really benefit him down the road because of a few $100s or $1,000 or something. And do we, when we do this, we look at it like, are we naive to think that we're covering the entire cost? We're not. Yeah. There's probably going to be more, but we looked at it as like, how can we make, at least at the beginning stages, a small impact? So this program for us just started in June. We started a pilot program and we were in a hurry to get it going. So literally by December 1st, we said we're in full swing. And when we started the pilot program, I assured my boss even and said, this is not a program to see if it's going to be successful. This is a program, which they all knew as well, but to confirm how we're going to work the program. Us working with all our AR offices, working with MCOM, working with the soldier. We wanted to confirm the process of everything because this is going to continue. This thing literally is multiplying by probably 5 or 10, amounts each month. It's growing hugely.
Each month. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Literally the numbers are staggering each month, how much it's growing. And I think eventually once it's really out there and everybody knows, I can't imagine a soldier not requesting the assistance when he's going somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like it'll become a hand-in-hand CSP application. If you're going to do a CSP, you're going to reach out to AER and check out some grants. So,
and the good thing with this is that we didn't do this as a kind of a narrow stovepipe program here. What we did is we reached out, we worked very closely with MCOM and wanted them to be as much involved in a sense as we are, just saying, look, this is great for both of us. This really allows us to help soldiers. This allows more soldiers to possibly participate in these programs, that you guys are in charge of. So we work very, very closely with them. Everything I do, I share with them. Everything. There's nothing that's hidden. Awesome. And then the good thing about the I would say as far as the money piece of it, this first year, we're really just kind of taking a look of what soldiers are requesting. So the guidance that we put out was everything they request, put it on the application. But it really has to be something extreme to go over the amounts, and I can discuss those amounts in a minute. But it really has to be something extreme to get over those dollar caps that we have right now, because we want to see how this first year plays out. And just hypothetically say that there's this demand for one type of item, these tools, and it's more than what they pay now. We're not so narrow to say we're not going to change anything. We're looking at what's everybody requesting. Is it a very common request? What are the amounts that people are requesting? Do we need to up those amounts? So Gotcha. This first year was great, and this first year, which was great, our director has so much faith in what we're doing here. That he said, "Hey, I'm gonna allow $3 million for this in the first year."
Wow.
And that's a pretty good chunk to a lot. To say I'm willing to let you guys do what you got to do with this. Yeah. But I'm open if it gets big. I'm open to possibly increasing those amounts.
And forgive me for my ignorance on this. Is AER funded by DoD or who funds AER?
So AER is funded through donations. So. Really? It used to be it's the soldiers taking care of their own, right? And it's supposed to be donations from soldiers. I can tell you donations have kind of dwindled off in the last few years. When I was a young soldier, it was probably 25 to 30% of the Army would donate. Soldiers would donate to AER. Wow. Now the numbers are less than 5%.
Wow.
So when people look at our numbers, it's a lot. It's a lot of money. but it's money through a lot of investment. That's how we make a lot of our money. We invest it, and the money that we make from the investments is how we're allowed or able to give soldiers these grants. And there are questions about the amount we have sometimes, but we give out $12 million a year in college scholarships,
Wow.
and surviving spouses, we help a lot with grants for them, for soldiers in real serious financial need. Not all of them, because you have to have some skin in the game on your own. You just can't say your car's broken down and you can't afford to fix it. Here's a few $1,000s, because that, our goal is to make them be responsible with money also.
Yeah.
So it's mainly the combination of donations and investments.
Wow.
And we have a professional investment, company that runs all of this for us.
Sure. So as far as the application goes for, a soldier has been accepted by their command and by an employer to go forward with the CSP. At the point that they're accepted, is that when they should be reaching out and applying? Like as soon as
So the way that we looked at, like, when, if they got 6 months, when do we authorize them to apply?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we decided a time period of 2 weeks out, 2 weeks from the start of the course. And the reason for that is if some soldiers have come to us like 4 months out, and I'm like, our thought was kind of, and I know it's trying to be prepared in advance, but that $500 is gone by the time you're hitting the course, and then you're possibly really needing something. So it's not a measure to keep money away from them. It's a measure to make sure they have money going to the course, and that it's spent on the things that they need at the course.
Gotcha.
So because that's our goal, we really want to help with that. So they can apply up to 2 weeks out, and through conversation, we've done a lot of war gaming on this side. And like I said, we're still kind of, although past the pilot program, we're still trying to see what works best. And try to make this as best a program as it is for soldiers and AER and MCOM, who handles who's in control of all the programs. We want this almost to be, here are my documents. I walk in with them, and that's just basically your ID card, your LES 101 application form, the CSP, the soldier participation memo, that's a memo that's approved by his command, and then this other memo that is signed by a regional coordinator who works, a career skills program regional coordinator. He's not validating any type of financial need. He's just stating, if the guy says he needs clothes, he's a validator that says, yes, uniforms are needed for this program. Yes, tools are needed for this program.
Wow.
And that's something that we look at and say, okay, so this is a legitimate need. And then it's those documents, you walk in, and it's literally, it should be a very quick process.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome. So, I mean, the limitations, I mean, are pretty non-existent. I mean, if you're an active duty soldier transitioning through CSP, you don't necessarily need to be in technical qualified financial hardship or anything like that. You just need to be approved for CSP within 2 weeks of starting your program, have the right signatures, and you can qualify. Yeah.
And so what we've done is for everything we do, you look at a budget. Unless it's emergency type travel less than 8 hours, we don't need a budget. So if it is going to the career skills program, I said, take this, my recommendation was let's just get rid of the budget, because the goal is we want to get them money. Do we see, we have a fairly limited list of things that they can request assistance for, but I'm not naive to think that there's other things that we're not thinking of. So, basically in the end, we want to get them the money to help them through this program. Right. So, when we talk about the time span, where we really opened this up was when this became a real program. We knew that there were some soldiers who were thinking about going. We knew there were soldiers who had already applied. We knew there were soldiers who were accepted. We knew there were soldiers who were in the program, and we knew there were soldiers who had already completed the program, but were not out of the Army yet. So we've made this to where you can apply from 2 weeks before all the way till the last day in the Army. And now there's a little stipulation on that. The only way, if the CSP program is over and you're not out of the Army yet, you'd had to have been offered and accepted a job from the CSP company who trained you. So if you say, completed the program, here's my offer letter, and I accepted the job, then we can give you money to help you move to that new duty station, which still falls within those limits, which I hadn't mentioned yet. So if you want, I can hit that real quick.
Yeah, please do.
So we looked at, and I'm going to just mention one of the changes we made, and change based on some input from IMCOM, who we work closely with from our overseas partners. So if we'll just use Fort Campbell because that's my favorite post probably. So if you're on Fort Campbell and you're attending a CSP on Fort Campbell or within 50 miles of Fort Campbell, say it could be just off the post, you can get up to a $500 grant. If you are, so that's considered local CSP. If you're at a non-local CSP, and what's great about this is the commander is the one who signs off and says this is a local or non-local CSP. So there's no doubt when we get it, we don't question if they've been approved and there's that document stating how far it is. We don't question it. This is what they're telling us is, and that's the end of it. Just like they don't question our financial piece.
Yeah.
And that's how we respect each other's part in the movement here. So if you're on Fort Campbell and you go to anywhere outside of that 50-mile radius and it's considered a non-local CSP, we give up to $1,000. And if you are traveling CONUS, so we'll say Oconus to CONUS or CONUS to Oconus or Oconus to Oconus, we'll give you up to $1,500. So, that just to me is a great program. And now, so for everyone to know, you can, and just using this as a number, when you're requesting the assistance, hypothetically, we'll just say the $1,500 Oconus to CONUS. You can request the $1,500 upfront, all of it, or you can request $500 3 times, or however $100 15 times. But in the end, your max will be $1,500.
And when you request this, are you saying, hey, like you bringing in a travel itinerary and say, hey, my flight's $800, $900, like this is my proof that I need this much? Or you could just come in here like, hey, I'm approved for this program and I think I'm going to need $1,500. So
if you just go off our list of items, you can say, this is my flight. And they probably show them, which doesn't hurt. Mm-hmm. This is my flight. These are the tools that I need. I'm going to need some money for food. And, and I'll be honest, the guidance I've given to our people is like, don't get too wrapped around the axle about it. In the end, what we want to do is we want to help these soldiers. If they're going to the course, they're going to spend more than we're giving them anyhow.
Yeah.
Just because there are associated costs that we just don't see.
Yeah. Absolutely. So what I'm picking up from this is, if you are approved for CSP, go to AER and apply for a grant.
Yes.
Yeah. That's really what
just make sure you have. Yeah, but just make sure that you have the documents that we've just talked about a little bit, and it's just something that we can do. And kind of to give you an idea of how we're just flexing a bunch, trying to make this good. Initially, when we started, this was only going to be soldiers who were traveling from one post to another. We're going to get the money, and then we started thinking, that's not necessarily a great story, and that doesn't necessarily help everybody else. Say hypothetically, 2 guys are at Fort Campbell doing a career skills program. One is stationed there and one came from Fort Bragg. Well, we gave the money to the guy from Fort Bragg because he traveled there. The guy from Campbell got nothing, but is still in the program and needing maybe needing tools or whatever. Yeah. So we thought, how can we just break this down, different dollar amounts, but cover everybody in this career skills program? Yeah. And I'll tell you, the career skills program, which people don't realize also, this is my opinion, is it's a great recruiting tool as well. So, a lot of soldiers have a real bad taste in their mouth about transition. They think, and it's true. Some leaders, I swear to God, would hold soldiers until the last month in the Army because they got to go to the field and they need those numbers, and I was always one that said, guy's gone anyhow. You know what I mean? What's the difference if he goes this time? But where it's a great recruiting tool, say hypothetically, a young soldier, a young man or a woman joins at 19 years old, 18 years old out of high school. They come to the Army for 4 years. They get a lot of training they don't even realize they're getting it daily. They're learning things. And then within the last 6 months, they get trained and moved on to an actual job out of the Army, and now they run into one of their buddies and say, this is what the Army did for me, working, bottom line, I came in, I did my 4 years. I got money to go to college, the GI Bill if I want to go. Yeah. I got the training and now I have a job. Yeah. And, because it's funny, my joke is always like, say I'm trying to talk to a young soldier, getting him to join. He's like, who's the freaking dude that's old as my grandpa trying to get into join the army? When his buddy, who's 23 years old, 22 years old, has spent 3 or 4 years in the army,
Yeah.
and now has a good job coming out of the army.
Yeah.
So it's a great recruiting tool, also.
I couldn't agree with more. I mean, just all around, I'm a big proponent for, the military out of high school. I think is an excellent way to kind of get yourself ahead of the peers that are taking out ridiculous loans for college and going that route. And yeah,
Agree.
military's a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
I want to
yeah.
verify this. The grants are available for both officer and enlisted.
Anyone in the army. We did not put a cap on it. So we didn't put a cap on that. You don't have to show me that you're in financial despair, because we know when you get out, you're going to spend money. I was pretty senior sergeant major spoke to myself, and it wasn't to me really. I guess I was in the room, but it was to the sergeant major of the Army and all the 4-star sergeant majors. And he said, I tell every soldier to save their best, to save $10,000 for when they're getting out of the Army, because there's all these expenses that you are going to come across that you've never even thought of.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we decided, because where would you draw the line?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
It wouldn't feel right drawing the line anywhere, because even though, we've had officers, we've had colonels come through our program needing assistance. There's just those times that, for something else other than CSP, there are just those times that you get caught in a financial bind, and so it never felt right drawing a line. We opened it to anybody. We opened it to everybody.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's, when I'm a guy who always looks for, I always like to see the good, but I look for what's a negative aspect of this? The career skills program, I really cannot think of anything that is negative. Yeah. It doesn't take too many soldiers out of the Army. It's great for recruiting. It's great for soldiers to follow on job into his community. A lot of soldiers get out and they have a great plan, and me being older, when I hear it sometime, I'd be thinking, that's a nightmare. That is not a good plan, and a lot of them literally come back in the Army, and not that I don't want them back in, but man, I want them to be successful. And if your plan was to get out and you felt solid about that, you got to have a plan getting out. And this is something that really helps, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
I mean, it is remarkable how smooth the transition can be with CSP. I mean, going straight from working to having, a full-time career that you're excited about, that you've been adequately trained for, with no gap in pay. I mean, you're set. You don't even necessarily have to use the JAB to go to college. That's an additional option rather than a necessity. So for the people that joined because they didn't want to go to college, this is an opportunity to continue not going to school if that's not what you're into. So, huge opportunity.
And if you think about it, those soldiers, all soldiers at about 2 years, 2.5 years, not all, but a lot of them really start saving those terminal leave days.
Yeah.
Or now they call them transition leave. Terminal sounds like you're dying, but so now they're transition leave days. And so imagine now you get 30 days a year. So say you save just 1 or 45 days, and you finish that career skills program, and you can move on. You can start that leave while you're working still. You're in a sense still receiving your money from the Army, but if it's you're getting your BAH, your separate rations, everything still.
Yeah.
And then you start working at this place, so there would be like zero loss in pay, really.
That brings up an interesting question that I wasn't sure if you'd be able to answer, if that's more of a CSP direct question. How does terminal leave, or rather transitional leave in this case, work with CSP? I mean, if you've got 60 days of terminal, whatever, built up, can you still take the 6 months before that? So you have a total of basically 8 months of transition time?
So what you have 180 days. So that's where I was saying it's a hard fit, and I should have added that part before. Within the 180 days, you have to do the CSP and your transition leave date. So I've always said, what's more important, a few days off? Heck, I can sell those days back. I'd rather get training and get a job, than sell my days if that's what I have to do. But yeah, you've got to fit it all within the last 180 days.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I'm just, my wheels are turning a little bit. There's definitely an opportunity to maximize that return based on, if you're already getting BAH or if you're not getting BAH, because terminally you get BAH and so on.
Yeah.
So just for people to consider how they can kind of manipulate that formula to maximize that. That's really cool. 6 months.
I can tell you, soldiers have taken leave before it.
Interesting.
They've taken some of their leave before it, and then kind of did their thing, and then went to and then did the training. Yeah. So soldiers are smart. I'll tell you, we soldiers have gotten smarter even, since I joined, and people are really savvy to the way that things are. And they, I've always been amazed by soldiers, to be honest with you. Soldiers, when they're together, their combined brains come up with some pretty amazing remedies to things. And, and this is another one. They all talk. I mean, I can't tell you how many. I've gotten tons of emails that said, "Hey, a buddy that I'm in class with told me about this grant." And it's funny. I had a Navy guy and an Air Force person reach out to me. And I said, "You know what you should do? You should reach back to your aid society and say, look what the Army's doing for their people. Maybe you should do this for us, because right now and I didn't add that part. It's limited to soldiers.
Yeah.
So because this grant we can only give to soldiers. So those other aid societies, I tell everyone that calls from another branch, I said, you should go back to your aid society and tell them what we're doing. Yeah. And because this is great for you guys, as well in these skill bridge programs.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for any soldiers listening, like this is your chance to get one up on the rest of the branches. So
yeah, sure is. We're kind of one up on them already in the Army, but
yeah, touche. So for anybody that's like, oh man, like I'm getting ready. This is me. You're talking to me right now. Where should people be going to get the paperwork, the documentation necessary to apply, and kind of like what are the steps for them to take advantage of this if this is them right now?
So if they're going to start this program, really, I think I sent you a link for them to go online. That tells them a ton about the career skills programs and exactly who to reach out to. And each post, or a lot of posts, have administrative or installation administrators who work with the CSP programs. Like JBLM is one of the best up there. They are full in. They have been doing this for years. They've been all over trying to help soldiers with transition, but you would start with those installation administrators. So if you go to Soldier for Life TAP office before you're going to get out, right there is where you can start to find your information as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, one thing I did fail to add, where we've also tried to make this really a simple process for soldiers, regardless of where they're at, realizing, like I said before, some are in the program, some are done with the program. We made it to where normally in AER, where the point of need is at, is where you would have to apply. So if you're on Fort Campbell and you're getting ready to leave, you could apply because you're local to Fort Campbell. If you go to Fort Bragg, although you're in the program and your home state or your home post is Fort Bragg, you can apply to Fort Bragg. I mean, your home post is Fort Campbell. You can apply to Fort Bragg. So wherever you're at or the training is at, if there's an AER office, you can go in there.
Awesome.
If you are at Campbell and your CSP is in the middle of nowhere, which there are some courses like that, you can still reach back to Campbell, which normally you can't. But for CSP, you can reach back to Campbell to request the assistance. If you come, say a recruiter is a great example, say you're in a location that's not around any AER offices, and your CSP is in a location where they're not near any AER offices, you just reach out to the Red Cross and submit your request to them. And so, a lot of people get confused with that also. They think, well, why am I calling the Red Cross if I want money from AER? We could not survive without the Red Cross. The Red Cross, what they do, they are facilitators for us. They are that conduit between us and those remote soldiers. So bottom line, soldier, they gather all the information for us. They know what we need. They get it all. They kind of package it up, if you will, and then send it over to us.
Awesome.
And then we look at it, and then we provide our questions or response. If approve, disapprove, or questions, we send it back, and then they pay the soldier, and then we pay Red Cross. So in the end, it still all comes to us. So we're trying to make, regardless of where a soldier's at, he can apply for for the CSP grant.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'll make sure that all the links are provided below, so anybody can start their application and get on the road with this thing sooner than later. So one last thought as I'm thinking about it, just to confirm, because some people might be wondering, this is a grant, therefore it is not taxed. Is that accurate?
Well, it's not taxed. You don't got to repay it. Nothing.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's literally, because we looked at like, what would be the point of giving you a loan that you got to pay back before you get out? Yeah. And if you're someone who's not retiring, you'd have to pay it before you got out. So what we want to do is to say, let's help ease some of that stress and say, here you go. Yeah. This is, you've in a sense earned this, and you're doing great things still. You're not slacking or anything before you get out. You're working hard, trying to set the next phase of your life up. If we can be part of helping that, we're all about it.
Awesome. Man, well, thank you so much, sir, for coming on and sharing this information. And I'm really hoping that, every soldier out there listening takes advantage of this program, and not only takes advantage of CSP, but also takes advantage of the AER grants and opportunity for this. So this is huge. And I think, the more soldiers and more service members that we can help have a smooth transition, the better off, the whole veteran community is going to be. So
I agree.
I'm excited for this, and excited to see it continue to grow and positively impact current service members and future service members. So
definitely. Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to help us get this word out there, and because we're spreading it any way that we can. It took a long time to get us here, it seemed like, but
that's all right.
But we're here, and we're always willing to help. And kind of like I said about the asking piece, if you don't know and you look on our website, we're just armyemergencyrelief.org. If you look on our website, there's tons of information in there. We got a new guy that runs that website, and he's really making some great strides with it. And if something's on there that you need, you don't see it on there, ask. We have a number and a website inquiry you can send to us. We answer everything each day. Awesome. So always ask. But yeah, I really appreciate this opportunity. So
absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate the time, and we'll stay in touch. And if I've got any unique questions that they can't seem to find answers to, I'll direct them your way if that's all right.
Yeah, you got my email. Send it directly to me. I'm good.
Sounds great. Thanks so much. Hey, so thank you for joining me today. I really hope Scott and I were able to shine some light on some of these further opportunities within AER and CSP. And so I hope that you guys are, if you're in proximity to getting out and taking advantage of that transition, taking advantage of these programs and benefits, I really hope you check out the link in the description and go through the process to apply for these benefits, take advantage of it, and set yourself up for success. So if this is your first time listening to the podcast, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, whether it's on YouTube or on the podcast platforms. There's tons of information out here, and I'm here in the future to help out. So see you guys next time. Later.